iPhone 15 Pro Max versus iPhone 11 Pro Max speed test. Let's go ahead and begin with a boot up in 3, 2, go, and see which one can get there first. Now, iPhone 15 Pro Max, A17 Pro chipset that's up from the A13 Bionic on the right. We also have 8 gigs of RAM. That's up from 4 gigs on the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So this 4-year later upgrade, 4 more gigs of RAM and a lot more improvements with the chip. You can see turns on several seconds faster than that of the 11 Pro Max. So if you need to reboot your phone anyway, it's going to be quite a nice upgrade here for you in that department. You'll see we go to titanium edges, a lot thicker, but a lot huger camera lenses right there. Although the iPhone 11 Pro Max to me is still more comfortable in the corners. This is one of the more comfortable iPhones they have made in years. So if you've been waiting it out with the 11 Pro Max, this might be your year to consider a jump to the 15 Pro Max. Now, when it comes to the area of unlocking these phones, Face ID means that nothing has really changed. We have Dynamic Island in terms of the animation, but the iPhone 11 Pro Max is still the same exact unlocking experience as the 15 Pro Max. So I was actually testing these out before making this video, and I gotta tell you that the smooth factor is pretty close, besides the fact that this has 60 hertz, at least generally scrolling day to day. Now, when the iPhone 11 Pro Max does get, you know, a little choppy, if you have way too many applications open or something like that, it might crash an app here and there. But honestly, the 11 Pro Max feels kind of like a 14 Plus in terms of the refresh and stuff like that. So it hasn't really changed much, and I'm actually very impressed with how this phone performs. This 11 Pro Max all these years later, they're doing better than they did when like they had the, you know, like iPhone 6s Plus, 7 Plus, like those devices. These phones are lasting a lot longer now in terms of performance. This phone could probably easily go another 2 or 3 years if you really wanted to stick it out with LTE. It seriously can. I mean, these speed tests are fun to watch, and there are big upgrades, but if you're the type of person who wants to go super long time, the 11 Pro Max is still a perfectly serviceable smartphone, although not nearly as smooth or buttery fast or snappy as iPhone 15 Pro Max. Both of these phones are on the latest version of iOS 17.0.3. Apple A13 Bionic is clocked in at 2.66 gigahertz. A17 Pro chip clocked in at over a gigahertz faster. Also, again, with the memory, you'll see twice the memory. So we'll see how that plays out in the RAM management section of this video. All right, guys, so here we are, and everything is closed out. And let's head up into calendar. You could see maybe faster on the left. Let's go into clock and alarms, stopwatch, timers. And let's go to get up out of there. Let's go into weather. And you'll see maybe faster on the left. And sometimes we get these haters in the comments. Oh, that was wrong. Goodbye. See you later. That's where I stopped watching the video. Well, goodbye then. Have a nice day. Because, you know, I'm human. I can make a mistake. I'm trying to call it the best I can. And if I miss one, that's fine. People will say in the comments, well, that was the right, or that was the left, or that was calculator on the right. No big deal. We're having fun here. Let's go into today. I missed that right there because I'm talking about this hater. So that wasn't even fair. Let's go into, well, I mean, it wasn't fair, but this is taking so much longer. It still would have loaded first. Let's go into arcade. And I'm not a robot. I'm a human like you. Robots don't use phones. Humans use phones. So we're not going to be perfect. We're going to go into the left. Let's go into categories. One of the things to do. And that's first on the right. And we'll go into X. Very close, but maybe on the 11 Pro Max. And the only thing I could think of is that because the 11 Pro Max has been out for so long, it's easily optimized for like everything you could really want to do. Now that was first on the left. Oops, let's go into profile page. Look at this. I mean, these things are loading so similar that, you know, daily applications, the 11 Pro Max is easily still a usable smartphone. No problems. Let's go into Starbucks. Again, faster on the left. You might be able to scan your coffee faster on the left. And you see faster on the left. So now the 11 Pro Max, fallen a little bit behind. Really, the thing that you really notice is that smooth factor. It's the same thing it's like I've been saying this for the past 2-3 years now. It's really the smooth factor that I'm noticing with the 15 Pro Max. Also, if you're the type of person who's multitasking a lot, like hopping in between applications a lot throughout the day, this phone right here is going to be a substantial upgrade for you, because it really does keep up with that pace of constant switching, app switching, and moving around the OS. But if you're just a regular iPhone user who's not super impatient, this is blowing away the 11 Pro Max, and the games just blow away the 11 Pro Max. That's another huge upgrade. If you're a gamer on your phone, you love to game on the iPhone, it's time. It's time to make that jump. Let's go into Temple Run 2. We also have a 6-core GPU, which is a huge jump even over some of the other iPhones that came after 11 Pro Max. So yeah, it's a big change here. And plus, games are going to be way better optimized in the future for obviously a newer iPhone. And so you can see once in game, no real issue. And the thing is well, the iPhone 11 Pro Max cannot load these games as fast. It can play them pretty well. You know, it's definitely a phone that I can play most of the games on the App Store in an acceptable fashion. Back in the day, it was the best in this area, and now it's just pretty good. But if you need that speed, you need them frame rates, you need that polish, that smooth factor, you got to go to the 15 Pro Max. And it's substantially more smooth than like even back in the day when you went from like an 8 Plus to 11 Pro Max because of 120 Hertz. And this one refreshes at 1 to 120 Hertz, which means you get even better battery life. Let's go into 3D Mark, first on the left, but again, not horrible on the right. I think the iPhone 11 Pro Max can probably outperform some budget Android phones today, or even mid-rangers. I should say mid-rangers. It can probably keep up with some mid-rangers these days. Let's go into iMovie. It might even be faster in some areas than like Tensor, G1, or the first Tensor G chip, or some other cheaper phones that didn't cost as much as this initially. Did pretty well here in this app test. Still clearly with the games showing that the 15 Pro Max is ahead. Basic apps pretty good on both of them, and still serviceable but not faster. Okay, so this one is one of the best in the game when it comes to animations, holding the applications in background. We have look at this. I mean, it's so enjoyable. And this is one of the things, I don't care which phone I use, which Android phone I try, I come back to this and I'm like, how do they do this? Like, it's insane how good. It's like almost perfection. It might just be perfection with the way the animations look, the way the applications look. I don't know if it's just perception, but I can definitely see a difference when I go from an Android phone to over here. Let's see how well the 11 Pro Max does. It's just a 60 Hertz, man. I can see it. I'm not sure if you can see it. It just doesn't look. I mean, back in the day, it was one of the best looks, but now that was a little choppy right there. It doesn't look as good. But the 11 Pro Max not really having too many issues holding. There we go, App Store with a full reload. Until you start getting a ton of apps open, no major issues with the reload. So you can still do your one app at a time multitasking on the like this on the 11 Pro Max, no issue. Let's go all the way back to Instagram. Yeah, see? You can still do this pretty much no issue using your iPhone day to day. 11 Pro Max still a serviceable smartphone for sure. Got this OnePlus Open foldable smartphone. Let's go ahead and use that big camera on the back for our camera test here, since we're talking cameras. 3, hold on, I'm about to drop the 15 Pro Max. 3, 2, hold on, I think those are open actually. Were they open in this test? Yeah, they were. Let's close them out and then we'll open them up. 3, 2, go. Yeah, so you can launch your camera fast. You might actually miss the shot. Well, not too much. You still would probably get, like, if you were trying to take one of those fast photos, you probably would still get that shot off maybe a hair quicker than the 11 Pro Max. Because I feel like those times when you're trying to get that photo, like you just pull the phone out, oh, I gotta get that. That's when the camera crashes. And that's less likely to happen on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. You can also go into settings on the 15 Pro Max and set up the all new action button right here. Action button, you could set this to be to the camera. So if we set it there, hold that down, boom, you're in the camera. So that can speed you up as well in the area of performance when it comes to the camera. And so here are our final Geekbench 6 scores. You can see 2867 on the single core with a 7064 on the multi-core for 15 Pro Max. That's over 1,000 points better than the iPhone 11 Pro Max and over 3,000 points better on the multi-core. Now, typically I can get even higher scores on my 15 Pro Max, but definitely this is really good. Also, you'll see that the score is only slightly behind an M2 iPad Pro 11-inch, which I will be comparing later to this phone in a speed test, so be subscribed. But you'll see right here that this is my 11 Pro Max is averaging a little bit higher in the multi-core score than that of most 11 Pro Maxes. So what we're going to do now is run the Geekbench. I have some previous results here. You'll see on 16.2, I got around a 2027 and a 4115. But I'm going to go ahead and run this now on the Wildlife Extreme test. It's about a 1-minute test that really just checks the graphics and things like that. So we'll be back in, a little bit of a chop there on the 11 Pro Max. We'll be back in with the final results for you. Okay, and our final scores are in, and a massive jump on the frame rates for the 15 Pro Max. So let's go ahead and show you what I'm talking about here. We do have ourselves 24 FPS there, 4136 on that overall score. The score is much larger, but it's really that frame rate that's going to make a massive difference, because in the game, you're probably going to see more chop for sure on the 11 Pro Max. And during gaming, this phone tends to warm up a lot more than it used to, clearly. This only scores better than 43% of all other devices on the market. That's why I said there are some phones that still will outperform even all these years later, but not many. Now over here, you'll see this scores better than 90% of other devices, which means there's probably like 10% other that do better. Those 10% are probably like, you know, some gaming Android phones or some Android phones with more RAM. Maybe even iPads, that might be what they're putting in there, but it's not going to be many. The 15 Pro Max is the beast on the market today with the, you know, internal specs as usual. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Conclusion: 11 Pro Max is a serviceable phone that still has a really good camera, good enough battery life if you maintained your battery health or had a replacement. It's still usable, but it lacks 5G, it lacks USB-C, it's quite heavy, and it doesn't have the best gaming performance anymore, but it's still very usable just as a standard iPhone with great cameras. Now, the 15 Pro Max is now your modern gaming beast. So is a 13 Pro Max and 14 Pro Max, so you don't have to go this far up if you're looking for an upgrade. But I think the 15 Pro Max has plenty of refinements and polishes over a 4-year-old 11 Pro Max that if you're really considering this, you'll probably really love this jump. Now, if you don't need all these special, you know, super duper amazing features, you might want to consider the 15 Plus, because there's plenty of upgrades on that over the 11 Pro Max that are still worth it as well. So you might want to consider that. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well. I catch you all in the next episode, and peace.